Hi there, welcome to Last Week in Thai BL. First things first, I was totally wrong last week when I said we had only one more episode of The Edge of Horizon. Oops. Anyways, I am so happy that we have more of Roy Ekpopti and Tan Chai Tinnakorn. Now, on to the story. Captain Phob is faced with the most difficult decision: love or duty. He knows firsthand how the system in Siam oppresses anyone who isn't born into nobility, so there's really no way for him to simply not join the rebels who are plotting to change the system. At the same time, the only way to get the information needed was to betray the one person he loves the most and someone who never treated him poorly. It's an age-old dilemma, and I feel so bad for him. My opinion is that he had no option but to join the rebels. But perhaps he shouldn't have stolen information from Tin, or at the very least, he would have been honest with him all those times when Tin was asking him if he had heard anything about the rebellion. But Captain Pop chooses duty though, and in this episode, he has to live with the consequences of his choice.
เรากลับมาเป็นเหมือนเดิมได้ไหมคุณหม่อมรักบาบาจริงๆนะลาก่อนนะพบดีนะคุณ
It's not just Tan Chai Tin that is mad at him though. Pope makes lots of enemies. Poison has been Pope's enemy and nemesis for a while now, and the animosity only builds further when Poison has the nerve to accuse Pope and the other members of the rebellion for destroying the country. That's quite rich coming from someone at the very top of the food chain who gets to live a luxurious life and care for his family. Unfortunately, Poison was right about one thing: that Tan Chai Tin wasn't going to forgive Pope for betraying him. That seems to be the case, at least for now. See, while I didn't care about the showdown between Poasin and Captain Pope because honestly, I really don't like that man at all, I was very sad that Pope had a falling out with Yai. Still, Yai was wrong to make it seem like Pope had to be grateful for them because some members of the family weren't evil to him. I say some because Tanchai Shat's whole shtick in this show is to treat Pope like a dog that should worship him. And while Tanchai Shat is facing his own issues, it doesn't excuse his behavior, a behavior that everyone has witnessed at some point. So it's quite rich of Yai to then act like Pope doesn't have any right to fight for a better life for himself and people like him. Also, I couldn't stand how all the house servants and Pope's mom were crying when they announced that the monarchy had fallen. Like, I understand being worried for their safety, but I'm sure the main issue was that they didn't see how this would be beneficial to them if things are done truly right. But that brings me to my last point. The fact that they're already trying to censor the press is a massive red flag. This is beginning to smell like any typical military coup. So only time will tell if Captain Phob actually made the right choice by choosing duty over love, and if that sacrifice was worth it. It turns out 5 years is not enough to get over your ex. At least that was Lek's experience. He's still daydreaming about Yai even at important times like during a job interview.
จริงเหรอ งั้นพี่ขอให้เจนเป็นของพี่คนเดียว
He spends all of his time romanticizing the relationship with Yai, which, if anyone remembers, was quite shitty for many reasons and not just about what happened to Put. Now that Lake is convinced that Yai didn't do anything to Put and learns that Yai even helps to get the case settled, he feels guilty and is determined to get Yai to forgive him. I mean, let's be real. Lake's main objective is to get back together with Yai. If we're being rational, we might say that this back and forth dance between Lake loving Yai and then being suspicious of him is tiring. But why should we overthink this? Let's just enjoy the chaos. To be fair to Lake, Yai is really good at making him feel special. Yai is also super possessive, and it seems like that's what Lake actually likes. With Yai being his boss now, Lake has an excuse to simply do everything Yai asks him to do, which seems to be what he wanted to do all along. But Yai, on the other hand, is being a little salty with Lake. He gives him a cold shoulder, except when he saves him from his coworkers. He claims it's because he wants to keep the promise to Lake that he made all those years ago about getting out of his life permanently. But I think he's already breaking that promise by being anywhere near him. He just wants Lake to beg him to get back together, and in the end, he finally gets his wish. After watching this episode, the only thing I can say definitively is that they spend most of their time sneaking glances at each other rather than getting any real work done. So hopefully that company doesn't collapse soon. I'm also intrigued by how they're bringing us through this transition from college life to a more office-based setting. And now it looks like they're also going to take us through another transition to family life when they start living together. So it's sure to be interesting. The Gelboys are back, and for their first stop, they're going on an apology tour. An apology tour for all the shit they put each other through in the first season. I really enjoyed this because it's great that they're acknowledging what they did and sorting out their issues early on so that their friendships and relationships can grow stronger. I also like that it served as a good recap for the first season for anyone who isn't caught up. But you should definitely still watch the first season if you haven't. It's really so good. The next stop is all the way in 2054 with their kids. It is really the cutest thing to see their love endure for such a long time and to continue to build this queer world together. It really reminds me of Schitt's Creek, that is also set in a world where homophobia doesn't exist at all. They definitely still have some messy plans for us in this season though, because they're telling us that either Sheehan and Fomod or Bua and Babin have split up in that future, but they don't say who. I am equal parts stressed and excited about it, and I can't wait to see how it all plays out. Whichever couple split up better make up by the end of the show though, I really don't care. As usual, the editing style and design aesthetic of the show is chef's kiss, and I am so in love with the show already. It's interesting to try to rank my favorite shows for this week because there are only 3 shows and all of them were so freaking good. Still, I'll try to rank them as honestly as possible. Number 1 is Edge of Horizon. This show is back at number 1 because I'm so excited that the show isn't over, first of all. And while things did go downhill in this episode, I still enjoyed the show. I'm literally on the edge of my seat, waiting to see how Captain Phob and Tim will find their way back to each other. You know, edge of my seat, like Edge of Horizon. Okay, sorry. Anyways, number 2 is Don't Be Too Emotional. So this show is number 2. I mean, there's literally only 3, so it kind of just is. Honestly, in as much as I think Yai is such a weird guy, I can't help but secretly like him. So when Lake is so obsessed with him, even when he shouldn't, it just kind of makes sense to me. Something about the hot and cold attitude is so captivating. And then number 3 is Gelboys. And so Gelboys is only at number 3 because this is just the first episode and they're still kind of like setting the scene for the rest of the story. I'm very confident that this will rise up the ranks in the coming episodes. And even if it's at number 3, it doesn't mean that I didn't love it because I really did. And I can't wait for the next episode. Okay, that's it from me for now. I promise all the shows are so good. And if you're wondering which VLs to watch right now, these ones won't disappoint you. See you next week. Bye.